contest was mind-blowing. The All-Star game? Not so much. Pitchers and catchers are reporting for spring training, and March Madness is so close we can almost taste it. We're debating it all right here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Welcome to week 2 of Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Back like Jordan in '95, I'm your new host, Malcolm Kellner. For our first round, Tom Little of the Liners and John Newton of the Scare will tip off the contest with some questions about NBA All-Star Weekend. John, you ready to lace them up today?
I'm ready to lace them up, ready to throw it down.
Oh yeah, how about you, Tom, for the Green Liners?
I mean, I still haven't seen John Newton do a reverse dunk, so I think I can take him.
Shots fired. Well, let's get right to it. Two of the best athletes in the world took the dunk contest to new heights over the weekend as reigning champion Zach LaVine topped fellow high flyer Aaron Gordon in the 2016 dunk contest. The duo went head-to-head in the finals, unleashing some of the greatest slams ever. So, Tom, was this the best dunk contest of all time?
Well, I mean, it was definitely one of, but it was not the best. These two athletes are not towards the top in the NBA, so you have to go back to the Michael Jordan versus Dominique Wilkins dunk contest. Those two were two of, if not the best players in the NBA in that season, and they went head-to-head in a thrilling dunk contest. Also, the right guy didn't win this one, so how can it be the best? Aaron Gordon outdunked Zach LaVine, but Zach LaVine still somehow was able to come out with the victory. So how can you say it's the best?
Okay, so Tom's saying the outcome was questionable and the players aren't that great, which is true. John, what do you have to say against that?
It's not about who are the best basketball players, it's about the best dunkers, and this was the greatest dunk contest of all time. In 1988, Jordan's dunk from the free throw line was already done by Dr. J in the 76 ABA dunk contest. This was not anything new of this kind. Wilkins had quite the collection of 360s and windmills and two-hand double clutches to put the icing on the cake, but he did not get the victory due to some questionable scoring because it was in Michael Jordan's Chicago. Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon had the best duel ever, going into double overtime, and only a dunk contest could. Both came out of the gates flying with intents behind the legs and through the back and everything, inside out, upside down, double clutch, up and down, left, right, around, ram, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Oh, man.
LaVine put his head over the rim. Gordon went between, over, under, and through his legs. Gordon went over the mascot and with a mailman slam, and LaVine had a windmill from 14 feet, for goodness sakes. These two were inseparable. Gordon put his head over the rim and a catch on the side of the backboard. LaVine went through his legs.
All right, John, I'm gonna have to cut you off to give Tom a chance at rebuttal. But yes, those dunks were incredible. And Tom, I'm sure you understand that too. But are you conceding that the dunks this year were better, but because the players were better with Jordan and Wilkins, does that mean that that dunk contest was better?
Well, I mean, that is one part of it, but also you said that Jordan did dunks that have been done before. A lot of what Zach LaVine has done, you can derive from Vince Carter. Vinsanity, he did the between the legs, all that great stuff when he was on the Toronto Raptors. He was probably the best performer in a dunk contest, and everyone's been ripping him off since. Zach LaVine was just ripping him off. Aaron Gordon did better.
All right, so John, last word is yours. Why will this dunk contest be remembered more than Jordan versus Wilkins?
Because you had two of the best dunkers, not the best basketball players. Zach LaVine would have been third in the 2012 London Olympics for the high jump just based on his vertical alone, not even having the technical high jump form, for goodness sakes. It was just that athletic, much more athletic than in '88.
All right, well, I'm going to have to end the argument right here. Great points on both sides. I love John's points about how the dunks this year were so incredible, but I think Tom really brought it home when he talked about how those dunkers in '86, they were the best players in the game. Gordon and LaVine, they're pretty average players at this point, so I'm going to have to give the points to Tom and the Green Liners. But question number 2. So the night after Gordon and LaVine stole the show, the All-Star game happened. The West topped the East 196 to 173. You heard that right. That was the score. Now, obviously, defense wasn't something either team focused on, So, John, what can the NBA do to make the All-Star game a little more exciting?
Well, when the players are shooting as well as they did, a stunning 55%, it's hard to have that super solid defense. But if you want to let the players show off their skills, kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters, you have to let them do the 4-point shot like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Love it.
Kyle Lowry and Steph Curry were each successful from 40-plus feet, and the players' total were combined 50% from over 40 feet. The distance for a Globetrotter's 4-point shot is only 35 feet. And if the Globetrotters can make 10 of these such shots in 60 seconds, I'm sure these NBA players can do the same. On top of that, maybe the NBA can follow suit with the NHL, breaking teams into divisions in a 4-plus team contest for a financial incentive prize. I'm sure the defense would be a heck of a lot better with financial incentives.
Okay, so John's got a couple ideas to change the All-Star game up. Very creative ideas. Tom, what do you have over here?
Well, what I think you can do is make it count. You've seen the MLB All-Star Game has gone up way better, more competitive games, and they made it count. So now the winner of the All-Star Game gets home field advantage in the World Series. You do a similar thing with the NBA, and you have the players on the best teams in the All-Star Game. You don't have to have a representative from every team in the NBA. It's the best players on the best teams. So these guys would go at it. They'd play defense. It would be a lot closer of a game, and people would still be interested down in the last 2 minutes.
So, John, Tom wants a financial, or I'm sorry, you want the financial award. He wants the serious result, home court advantage in the finals. Why is the 4-point shot and the financial reward better option than what Tom is proposing?
Because so many of these All-Stars do not play for championship contenders, they would not have the incentive that teams of these championship contenders would have. Whereas when you have a financial incentive, all players are going to play hard, not just players on a team like the Warriors and the Spurs. They're definitely a lock for the conference finals in that regard.
That was not the case. You saw 6 players from the top 2 teams in the East, 4 for the Hawks, 2 for the Cavs. They're playing on the top teams in their conference most of the time. I know that DeMarcus Cousins plays for the Kings and Anthony Davis is on the Pelicans and Kobe Bryant's on the Lakers. But most years, if your team is good enough, you will have at least one representative, and they will make sure that they get home court advantage in the finals.
All right, last word, or maybe a couple more words. Got some more time left. John, what do you have to say against that?
You're not going to have a player from every team, but that being said, you're going to have players like DeMarcus Cousins on teams that are not championship contenders.
Or John, do you think that the incentive of the home court advantage would actually change the game?
It's not going to change the game as much as financial incentives would. Maybe a few guys would play tougher, those that have the opportunity on really big teams to win those really big rings.
All right, I'm going to have to stop it right there. I like Tom's proposal about the home court advantage. I think that could be cool, but that's been tried in the MLB, and that hasn't really changed the way the game has been played. The game is still played like an exhibition game. I think John debunked that point nicely. Only a few players in the All-Star game are actually going to be in the finals, so I'm going to have to give this point to John Newton and the Red Scare. And that's going to wrap up things for round 1. The game is tied at 2, so you better not go anywhere. We've got the MLB Way Too Early Awards coming up in the lightning round on EIV's Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Keep it here.
Have no place to go. Have no place to go. Darling, have no place to go. Have no place to go.
Welcome back to Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Now, like most sports pundits, we think we're smarter than everyone else and have a crystal ball into the future. So for today's lightning round, we're going to use that crystal ball to make 2016 MLB predictions that are almost certainly way too early. First, we've got Tommaso de Blasi from the Green Liners today. You ready for the big time, Tommaso?
Oh, I've been ready, Malcolm. I've been waiting.
All right, he's been ready and he's waiting. We've got Olin from the Red Scare, Olin Hayes. First time on an official UC show. You ready for this?
I'm ready, always.
All right, sounds like they're both ready, so let's get right to it. Question number 1. Who is your pick to win the World Series trophy come October, Tommaso?
The
Take
New
it
York
away.
Mets have unfinished business in 2016. They have the best starting rotation in the major leagues, hands down. They basically got 4 or 5 when Zach Wheeler gets back, #1 starters in Jacob deGrom, Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, Steven Matz. They also got Cologne and then Zach Wheeler. And they've reached 90 wins last year when everyone said they were going to get 3rd place. And this year they have Cespedes. They have more flexibility in their lineup with Cabrera and Walker because they're both switch hitters. And I think our defense is also better without Daniel Murphy and with Walker holding down second base. I don't see how the Mets can't win the World Series this year. We're definitely going to be back there, and we're taking it. We got unfinished business, New York Mets.
So Tommaso with some home cooking, but he's got the
Home
points to
cooking,
back it
baby,
up.
yes.
Olin, what do you have to say?
Well, I think the Mets are a good team, but they've had some problems with injuries, and their starters have not been able to stay consistent always the time over the last couple of years. They've lost some key pieces on offense as well. I'm going with the Toronto Blue Jays. You look at their offense, 2 through 5 in the order. You've got Donaldson, Bautista, Encarnacion, Tulowitzki. That's 4 guys who can hit 30 home runs, 4 guys who can all be MVP candidates.
Also
and you've got
injury-prone.
some incredible people on the starting rotation now, which is drastically improved from last year. Marcus Stroman was an ace when he came back, 1.67 ERA and undefeated in a couple of months when he came back from injury last year. And their biggest weakness last year was the bullpen and bridging the gap to Brett Cecil, but they've done that by acquiring Drew Storen and having Brett Cecil bridge the gap to Storen, one of the best closers in the MLB.
All right, so both guys made good points. I think both of those teams will go far in the playoffs, but Toronto lost David Price last year, so I'm not sure how Olin can say their starting pitching will be drastically improved. Tommaso made the good point about the Mets starting pitching. They pretty much have a staff of #1s. Got to give the point to Tommaso and the Green Liners. So next question. What team that made the playoffs last season in 2015 will crash and burn in 2016? Olin, you first this time.
It's going to be the Texas Rangers. The Rangers are in a very difficult division, and they've lost some key pieces. They lost their ace, Giovanni Gallardo. They also have Cole Hamels now, who's supposed to be their ace, but he kind of struggled when he came to Texas last year. His home run rate went up, his walk rate went up, his strikeout rate went down. He's had some issues adjusting to Texas. And in addition, their offense has been a little shaky. They don't have any depth in the starting rotation. It's going to be all Cole Hamels. The rest of their starters, all well below the league average in terms of innings pitched per start and going deep into games, and they do not have the bullpen to back that up. The Rangers have too many flaws. They're in a tough division where the Angels are going to be coming on strong and the Astros are already very strong. The Rangers are not going to make the postseason this year.
Okay, so the Rangers, Olin saying a little flash in the pan last year. Tommaso, who's your pick?
Listen, I know you said that the Blue Jays were going to make the playoffs, but I really don't think they will. And I'll tell you why. Because I am not going to put all of my faith in Tulowitzki, one of the most injury-prone players Major League Baseball has ever had. And to lead your lineup, right? And then you have, okay, I'll give you both Bautista and Encarnacion, but they're old, and they're like in their mid-30s, and they can also get injured at any time just because of that. Also, their starting rotation is weak. They only have 1 ace. Who else do they have? R.A. Dickey? He's not a Cy Young anymore. Why would you want to rely on that? And also, the biggest point, they're in a better AL East. Losing David Price to the Red Sox, their AL East opponents. Also, they have Kimbrel now and Chris Young. I think the Red Sox are a better team. And the Yankees, right? The Yankees have the best bullpen in Major League Baseball, arguably. And
Okay.
Sandoval has been losing weight, so that can definitely help the Red Sox.
Well, we're gonna have to cut it there. When I heard the Kung Fu Panda point, I knew I had to wrap it up. But I'm gonna go with Olin at this one. For this one, I think the Blue Jays, their lineup is just too good. The Rangers, too many question marks with that team in a stacked AL West. I don't see them getting back to the playoffs. So, question number 3. Carlos Correa, Chris Bryant, and Mookie Betts were a few players who had huge years in their first year in the bigs. Now, guys, what rookie do you think will have the biggest impact on his squad this season? Tommaso, back to you.
Steven Matz. As I said earlier, the New York Mets have the best starting rotation because they have all these aces. If Steven Matz produces, that's going to validate that argument. So Steven Matz has experience as well. 3 postseason starts. He had a 2.27 ERA with 34 Ks and 35 innings with only 10 walks. And 4 wins in 6 games with no losses. He's in the best starting rotation in baseball, as I said. And he's in a rotation that has Jacob deGrom, the 2014 Rookie of the Year. So I think that's going to rub off on him.
Tommaso just finds a way to make every one of his answers about the Mets. But good points, though, about Steven Matz. Olin, what do you have to say?
Well, I love the Mets starting rotation, but I think you look at Jacob deGrom, he's the real star of that team, and you don't really need like another pitcher to go along with him. You've already got so many aces. They're incredibly deep. I'm going to go with a player who can make a difference at his position for his team. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge for the New York Yankees. They've had some serious problems at right field. Beltran's been getting hurt. Hicks has been inconsistent. He's their only offseason pickup to address that issue at all. Aaron Judge is an all-around player. Incredible power and slugging stats, 232 isolated power in Double-A last year. That's off the charts. He's an incredible player all around. He had 19 outfield assists in just 2 seasons in the minors, perfect fielding percentage in Triple-A last year, and he can hit for power. He had 20 home runs. He even had 7 steals to back it up. True 5-tool player for the Yankees.
All right, well, that's gonna be the time for this question. I'm gonna have to give this one to Olin. I think he made a good point about how the Mets have so many good starting pitchers. Even if Matt's kind of has a sophomore slump, it won't hurt them too much. So Red Scare take a 2-1 lead in the middle round. But next question, who will be this season's MVP? Back to you, Olin.
Mike Trout. Mike Trout is the best player in the major leagues without question. 4-time All-Star in 4 seasons. He's led the American League in WAR every season that he's been a professional. He's led the entire MLB for 3 of those years. He leads in all kinds of categories. Whether people are looking at analytics like WAR and runs created and that kind of stuff, or if they're looking at classic stats. He hits home runs, he slugs, he hits for average. He's on a good team, and he's a great fielder. He's a great hitter. He's an all-around player. He's the best player in the league. He's going to lead the Angels back to the postseason.
Okay, so you got it tough, Tommaso. You got to argue against Mike Trout. Just don't say Lucas Duda. Say someone else.
I'm not going to say Lucas Duda, but I'm going to say the best first baseman in Major League Baseball, and that's Paul Goldschmidt. So Paul Goldschmidt, he has finished second in MVP voting in each of his last 2 healthy seasons. The last 3 seasons, he's hit a slash line of 309, 418, and 556, averaging 34 home runs and 116 RBIs per 162 games. This guy has won 2 Gold Glove Awards in the past 3 years, in 2013, 2015, after coming back from an injury. He also has 21 stolen bases and 26 attempts last season. And he's on an improved Diamondbacks team, and he's got something to prove. So Paul Goldschmidt, MVP.
Okay, so those players are in different leagues, so potentially they could each win MVP. I'm going to have to go with Tommaso here. I think with the D-backs making those offseason pickups with guys like Greinke, they'll be a better team, and with a better team, better chance of MVP. Goldschmidt's been knocking on that door, and I think he could get it this year. So last question with a 2-2 tie. Who will be the Boston Red Sox MVP this season? Tommaso, you first.
Well, listen, the Red Sox did not pay $217 million for David Price for no reason. Okay, he is their ace. He has to step up and prove why he's an ace. He has had a consistent career. He has 104 wins and 56 losses and a 3.09 ERA. Last year, 18-5 with a 2.45 ERA. He has experience in the AL East, which is the biggest component, which is supporting him for the Boston Red Sox MVP, in my opinion, because he's back in that division. He has experience against them. He's going to know what he's going to have to do. And he's a 5-time All-Star, AL Cy Young Award winner. He's got all the credentials. I think he's the reason why Boston takes it to the next level and makes the playoffs this year and has a winning season.
So Tommaso saying David Price. Olin, why someone else?
Well, David Price has a history of some serious troubles against the AL East. He's been knocked out in the first inning against the Yankees 3 times in the last couple of seasons, has some terrible numbers against the Rays as well. I'm going with Craig Kimbrell. Red Sox's biggest problem last year was replacing Koji Uehara when he went down, so they took a precaution this year and signed Kimbrell, who might be the best closer in baseball. 1.63 career ERA. He had what people were calling a down season last year, where he went 39 of 43 on saves and had an ERA under 3. If that's his down year, I want him every year. If they struggled with people like Gene Machi, who had a horrible season, Robbie Ross Jr. also couldn't close. They have solved their problem at closer, and Craig Kimbrell is going to be the best player on the team.
All right, that's going to wrap things up. Tommaso made great points about David Price, but Olin had a great rebuttal for that and made the great point about how Price has struggled in the division in the AL East, which he's pitched in before. Craig Kimbrell, they needed a closer. They got one, and if he has a good year, I think he could very well be the Sox MVP. So that's going to do it for the lightning round. Nice job to both players. Olin edging out Tommaso 3-2 for the Red Scare. But we've got our final round coming up, and it's all about college basketball. It's almost March, and we're bringing madness right here on UC. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Aaron Kinigsberg, host of EIV's The Dish. Tune in every Friday for your chance to see what kind of bow tie I pulled out of my closet today.
Can you feel that? That's the pressure that's been built up in the UC Arena in this nail-biting match so far. We've had a great one so far with the Red Scare leading by a score of 5-4, but now it all comes down to this. The college hoop-based final round. We've got Sean Stackhouse of the Green Liners, Matt Case of the Red Scare. Sean, you think you can handle this pressure right now?
Oh, I can handle it. It's been a while since I've been in the UC Arena, but I'm back. I'm ready. I'm going to avenge my loss in the finals back when I was a freshman.
Okay, how about you, Matt?
I'm ready to go. This is my first show here at UC, and I'm ready to bring the victory to the Red Scare.
All right, so both players very confident. We'll see what happens. Let's get right into it. Question number 1. Who is the number 1 team in the country right now? Sean Stackhouse, start with you.
This is a tough one because the number 1 ranked team is Villanova. They have a very easy schedule. So the team that I get to go with is the team that has built incredible players around them. That's the University of Maryland. You got to look at guards like Melo Trimble, Diamond Stone. They have completely turned Rasheed Solomon around after he left Duke. He has turned into a player that is not one you want to mess with. Maryland has proven to be a force. Right now they're ranked 6th. They lost last night. That's because Diamond Stone got suspended. When you get Diamond Stone back, there's not a team that can run the floor like Maryland. They go so fast. They pass the ball almost better than any other team. They can just get it going on offense. They're an extremely tough team to beat. Everybody healthy and no suspensions. They're a dangerous team, and they're sitting at 6th right now.
All right, so Sean going with the Terps of Maryland. Why someone else, Matt?
Well, I find it hard to believe that you think that the Maryland is the best team in the country. And part of suspensions is that if you want to be the best team in the country, you have to avoid those kinds of suspensions. Maryland has lost 2 consecutive games to unranked teams, and most of their losses have come to unranked teams. My best team in the country is Kansas. They've won 6 straight games, and half of those wins have come against ranked opponents like Kentucky, West Virginia, and Oklahoma, who they beat on the road. It was also their 2nd time beating the Sooners in the previous game being that crazy triple overtime game.
You know, Kansas, not going to argue. They're an incredible team, and I love watching them as much as any other team because they run the floor well, they pass well. But you talk about those big wins that came against Oklahoma. That's because Devontae Graham stepped up. He had 24. Trust me, I've seen Devontae Graham. I watched him in high school. He is not an explosive player that can go off that for games like that every time. 24 is not something he's going to do. He is a great passer. He's a good shooter. When he's not going to step up like that every time, and then you got to rely on players like Frank Mason, Wayne Selden, Perry Ellis, great players. But after that, who you got?
Well,
So why is Kansas clear-cut better than Maryland?
Well, you talk about that player there, and I do believe that he's going to step up and play because that was a critical game against Oklahoma. So you put him in another situation like that. And this game was between the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country at the time, and he stepped up and played well. I don't see any other reason why he wouldn't step up. And they've gone from number 6 to number 2 in the latest poll, while Maryland has gone from 2 to 6, and Kansas is also the 2nd highest scoring team in the top 25 and 14th in the country.
I'm going to throw a quick question at you. He mentioned Kansas' strong schedule. They've made a lot of good wins this year against ranked teams. Why is Maryland shown that they're better than that?
Well, Maryland also has great wins against ranked opponents. Their biggest one came against Iowa, where they really were able to lock down with a healthy team. And you had mentioned suspensions as a big issue. And of course they are when you have players that can't play. But when they're all back, that's a dangerous team, and they've got an easy rest of the schedule, too, for Maryland.
All right, well, I'm going to have to wrap things up here. Very tough one for me. Both teams outstanding, but I'm going to have to give the points to Matt Case and the Red Liners. Maryland, they've been a great team, but they did lose last night to a terrible Minnesota team. Believe me, I know. I'm from Minnesota. And so if you lose to Minnesota, who hadn't had any Big Ten wins, not so sure that's the best team in college basketball. So we're going to move on to question number 2. What player do you think will be named Player of the Year? Matt Case, your turn first.
Well, I'm going back to the Oklahoma Sooners and Buddy Hield. He averages 25 points per game. This is the 2nd most in the NCAA. He's shooting over 50% as well, and nearly 50% on three-pointers too, which he also ranks 2nd in the country on that one. And he averages 1.3 steals per game. This guy is all over the stat sheet.
Okay. Sean, how about you?
Trust me, Buddy Hield can light it up. He's an incredible shooter, one of the best that we've seen in college basketball playing at a high level. But the thing is, Buddy Hield is a one-dimensional player. He can shoot the ball. He's a sloppy defender, and He doesn't pass the ball. He's averaging under 2 assists a game. The real player of the year is Chris Dunn from Providence. He has turned a team that has practically nobodies into a real contender. Chris Dunn averaging 17 points per game. He's got over 6 rebounds a game, over 6 assists. He's 10th in assists in the country. He has turned Providence into a real, legitimate contender. Buddy Hield just hopped on a team where he has guys like Kevin Spangler who are just making him one of the best players. You got to look at somebody who's completely transformed their game into making Providence one of the best teams in the country.
All right, so why is the scoring of Buddy Hield bigger than the all-around game?
Well, because he puts up huge points, and then he relies on his other team to close out the game. He had 46 points in that Kansas game in that
But
triple
did they win?
overtime thriller. No, they
Can he
didn't.
close
They
it?
weren't able to pull it out because Kansas, the best team in the country, was able to do that. But also, Chris Dunn, you talk about, he's not even the top scorer at Providence. That's Ben Bentley. You talk about a guy who's turned the program around. I'm going with him. He averages over 20 points per game. Unlike Chris Dunn, he's got a better field goal percentage as well.
You put too much of an emphasis on points. It's players that can get it done all around the court. You know, gotta say, Buddy Hield, he's great. He's fun to watch. But it's players that can get it done everywhere. If they can pass, they can rebound, they can defend. Look at Chris Dunn's defensive stats. He is so good. He can play lockdown on anybody. He's rebounding so well as a guard. He's 6'4".
Well, also you got to look at the fact that a lot of in the past, the players who have gotten this award have been offensive-minded players, and that's who a lot of the time that the NBA also looks to, is that it's a more offensive-minded league as well.
So ESPN looks at. It's not who I look at. I look at the players that know basketball. Chris Dunn is such a smart player. He knows where to pass. He knows where to look. He's getting it done all around the court. There's nothing else I can say. It's got to be Chris Dunn.
Okay, we got last points for each of you. Bring it home for Buddy Hield. Why is he going to be the player of the year? Let's hear your closing argument.
Buddy Hield can play, like I said before, he can shoot. He's over 50% shooting and nearly 50% on threes. That means he can drive the lane and puts up shot, and he also gets it from the perimeter as well.
Why Chris Dunn?
Chris Dunn, he's able to score well, as I said, 17, and that's because he's also passing the ball too. You had mentioned their other top scorer who's ahead of Chris Dunn. It's because Chris Dunn's helping him out. He's facilitating. That's what you got to do.
All right, well, I'm going to have to end it here. Very close argument once again, but I'm going to have to go with Sean Stackhouse and the Green Liners. Chris Dunn, I liked his points about Dunn being an all-around threat, whereas Buddy Hield is more of a scorer. I think Sean made that point well, how Dunn is more beneficial to his Providence team. So, down to the last question here. Winner wins it all. LSU's Ben Simmons seems to be the consensus #1 draft pick in next year's NBA draft. So, who do you guys think will go #2? Sean, first up.
This is something a little bit unconventional, but it's been a trend for big man. I'm going with Jacob Podol out of the University of Utah. He has been doing so well. He has drastically improved since he came into the league last year. His footwork is incredible. His hands are so great. He plays defense unlike any other and can transform a game. He's elite. He's fast. He can move. He has proved that he is coachable. He's put Utah on the map again.
All right, Matt,
Well,
someone else.
I'm going with Brandon Ingram, the freshman from Duke. And what I look at is the fact that a lot of these teams that are going to be drafting in the second spot are teams that are going to be looking for a guard like the Lakers or the Suns. They're going to want to take someone like Brandon Ingram, someone from Duke, someone from Coach K's team, other guards that they've produced with Seth Curry, Kyrie Irving, and Austin Rivers, very much similar in that regards. And he averages 33 minutes a game, so he plays the game, only takes a couple of minutes of rest per game.
Tough thing about Brandon Ingram, he's a great player, but he's so skinny, and right now you got to
Got to hit the gym.
Oh, it's exactly what you got to do. If you're going to flex after an and one, you got to have arms that are bigger than your wrists.
Okay.
But Brandon Ingram, again, he's a great player. But the thing is, you're talking about a guard, he's 6'9". When he comes into the NBA, he's not going to be able to hang with those shorter guards that are faster like Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving. They're very elite players. But you're going to match up him, he's too slow to guard those guys. They're too fast, they're too quick, and he's lanky. And then if you want to put him on a bigger man, he's going to get bodied so easily. Have him try to guard a small forward like LeBron, he will get sent to the floor in a second.
All right, let's talk about fits for your guys. So number two team, we've got rough teams needing their franchise guy. Why is Ingram going to be a good fit for one of those worst teams in the NBA?
Well, Sean, you talk about size, and size has never stopped any NBA team from drafting anybody. And Seth Curry was a pretty small guy when he came into the league. And also Isaiah Thomas for the Celtics was only 5'9".
Brendan Ingram is 6'9".
Yeah, but that never stopped anybody.
You can't just go too small.
And Ingram puts up the numbers as well, though, unlike Podol, who
has 17 and
averages
8.
less than 30 minutes a game. He needs more rest. And he's playing at a team at Utah that only has 2 NBA players from Utah right now, unlike Duke, who has 24 players.
Why is Podol going to shatter the mold of Utah? I mean, they don't produce a lot of NBA talent. Why will he be different?
Well, it's because when Podol was recruited, he was a fairly unknown player. Last year, he got criticized a lot because he didn't have the best footwork. That has drastically improved. He's one of the best defenders and rim protectors around, and we've seen that as a trend in NBA taking big players. You look at Joel Embiid, Jahlil Okafor. Big men have been taken high recently. I think that's going to be the trend.
What are the stats? What is he putting up this year?
He's putting up 17 and 8.
Okay, so why are these stats better?
Well, I'm not going to deny that Podol is probably going to go in the top 10, but Ingram's better. He's shooting 47% from the field, averaging 17.3 minutes a game. This guy's been on the radar of NBA teams since he was in high school. He's a 4-time state championship winner as well. He had 20 points and 10 rebounds as a guard in the win over North Carolina.
All right, I'm going to have to wrap things up here. Again, these guys making it so tough for me with great arguments, but I'm going to have to go with Sean Stackhouse and the Green Liners. I liked his points about Podol's NBA transition. Graham might struggle in the NBA. He is a little bit thin. And Matt talked about players from Duke, but he named guys like Seth Curry and Austin Rivers, both guys who have really done nothing in the NBA. So Sean Stackhouse and the Green Liners win a nail-biter here today. So that's it for the final round and match for this week of UC. We're not doing yellow cards today, unfortunately, in the interest of time. But be sure to join us next week. Right here, we have a break. How many hours are in a week? Like 168? We have an 167.5-hour break. So don't go anywhere. Be sure to go to EIV's website on Facebook, YouTube. Watch this episode, everything else. Thanks so much for watching, and Kellner out.